resumed their upturn or other uptick despite one-off excise duty cuts. With it being a key operating cost, to what extent have you been able to pass on the increased burden to your clients? Has there been any increase in the credit cycle?
So first point is that we actually operate through vendors. We don't own any trucks. So our fuel cost is actually not more than 40%. We are not seeing so much of a uptake in like any sort of additional costs that's happening, because we have a very dynamic diesel fuel surcharge system. Now in this, we take the diesel fuel surcharge and we put it on the customer's billing, and at the same time we reduce or we increase our vendors' payment cycle. So it's kind of like very dynamic and it kind of matches the current scenario. Point number two, we do not see any sort of like growth not happening. The growth in the company is, as we had planned, about 25 to 28% by the end of the fiscal year, and we are very well on track. I do not see a dip in demand also. Demand is very strong. Perhaps in like segments like retail, it might be a little low, but in the B2B segment, it's very strong. B2C e-commerce is also very strong, but I do not see any sort of like, like a malfunction coming up because of the slowdown.
So the 20% of clients to whom the fuel increase pass on is slow, what's the differential lag, and how much do they contribute to revenues as they seem to be in a better negotiating state?
Right. So that's an ongoing thing, it's like it's something which a large customer may not increase it right there and then, depending on the clause, the agreement clause. But typically, even when they increase it, we see it happening by the end of the financial year. We try to take on the already increased price through the dynamic fuel surcharge, as I mentioned, and anything which is like negotiable on as per the agreement, we try to like counter that by the end of the fiscal year. And of course, that lag comes on to the next financial year. I do not see any of my numbers that I have that we have given out dampening or getting affected by this diesel fuel increase.
Have high fuel prices weighed on consumer sentiment or your expansion plans for the next 1 or 2 years?
So our expansion is totally dependent on the growth in the economy. And we are seeing that the growth in economy is very strong. I mean, I was seeing the numbers that the industrial production and the GDP numbers, we grew at about 7%. Saying that, I don't see this in the next few years coming down. In fact, next year they're predicting to be about 8% onwards. So I think cost is something which is passed on ultimately to the customer. The initial hit comes, and if a company is not ready for it, then they will have to take on the burden of the increase in price. But since we have a very dynamic fuel increase system, we are able to pass it on as and when it happens. So I think the overall growth prospectus for my company is still on track. I don't see anything coming down. And if yes, that would be a big problem if suddenly our GDP dips in Q3 to like maybe 5% or something, and obviously that is not going to happen.
Right. There is underlying traction in volumes, but how much better could it have been ahead of the festive season, where you would have seen an uptick in volumes? How different would this festive season have looked like if we didn't see those macro pressures?
So I think it would have made a difference of maybe just 1 or 2%, because the ultimately the festive season again is later this year. I am possibly seeing already that in the beginning of October, the our business cycle has improved considerably from last month's same time, same period, month on month. So maybe this month, yes, there will be a better response to the festive season. And I think last month also we had a considerable increase in volume at about 18%. So that clearly showed that the demand is right there.
What is the strategy to protect from such sharp fuel cost increases in the future, especially with big clients who have stronger bargaining muscle and new clients who have who are on board with extremely competitive pricing?
So when it comes to ultimately increasing the price, we have to look at the also the segment that is going to increase the prices first. For example, pharmaceuticals, they will have to definitely see a movement happening of their medicines and pharmaceuticals. So they will increase the prices. Auto may not increase as we speak because again, there is a slowdown. The demand is much lesser than earlier. So I think it depends on the industry vertical also as to when and how the demand is playing out. So overall, I think even if if a logistics company is able to pass about 80% of the cost of the diesel fuel increase, they're in good shape.